Horse keeps hugging woman. When doctor looks at ultrasound, he calls the police. People think that horses have a sort of sixth sense, giving them the ability to sense things that other animals can't, such as emotions, or maybe even something just hidden. This hasn't exactly been proven, but there are some spectacular horses out there, such as Keola. That's the name of the horse who began react strangely when their owner got pregnant. Here's that story. The woman's name is Jolene Jonas. Although there aren't any pictures of her available, in order to help her maintain her privacy. Jolene and her husband, Ricky, had been trying to get pregnant for a long time. And when she finally did, it seemed as though it was a miracle. That is, until Keola suddenly started acting up. However, as Jolene's pregnancy progressed, Keola, their horse, began to react strangely. Keola would randomly hug or lick Jolene's belly. The married couple didn't know how to react to all this, so they tried their best to ignore it. They couldn't have guessed what the horse was trying to tell them. The pregnancy was progressing just fine otherwise. That is, until the 25-week mark. Then, Jolene began complaining about bad back pain. She couldn't even walk, it was so bad. Ricky took Jolene to the hospital to see their doctor, who called for an ultrasound. But what the doctor saw was so shocking, he immediately called the police. Let's take a look back at the relationship between Jolene and Ricky to see how we got here. The pair have been together since they were 16, eventually getting Keola sometime after they were married. Their relationship wasn't perfect, but no relationship is. But Jolene started to feel as though something was off. It was something that had been bugging Jolene since they had first met. Despite being together for years, Ricky was still rather cagey about his past. This started to worry Jolene. Ricky would explain that he didn't have a family anymore and that it just hurt to talk about. But was it truly so bad that he couldn't share this knowledge with his partner? Well, Ricky says he just wants to forget it all. Jolene began to simply accept that this was just the way Ricky was. She couldn't get him to open up about his family, but at least she didn't see anything else wrong with him. About 10 years into their relationship, they decided to get married. Jolene expected to get the opportunity to finally meet some of Ricky's family members, but their complete absence was even more surprising. Perhaps it wasn't too surprising, but Ricky had only invited friends to the wedding. To her disappointment, Jolene would not have the opportunity to meet any of Ricky's family members. Of course, the next step the couple took was trying to expand their family. However, after several months of trying, they still couldn't get pregnant. Not knowing what the reason behind this could be, they decided to go see a doctor to help. The doctor did some tests, but after a few days the doctor ominously told them to come back to the clinic. Fortunately, there was nothing to be worried about. The doctor informed them that they were perfectly healthy and that there was nothing that would be preventing them from having a baby. As a matter of fact, a week later, Jolene was pregnant. Everyone was happy to hear the news, except for one member of the family. Keola the horse had started to somewhat aggressively hug Jolene every time they saw her belly. With a new mystery in their hands, they took Keola to a vet. But they couldn't find anything wrong with the horse. Keola's behavior only seemed to get worse. Jolene began researching this phenomena, and the results only left her more distressed. According to Jolene's research, this meant something was wrong with her baby. Jolene panicked, but didn't want to worry her husband with this news. Instead, she went to her mother. Granted, her mother told her that the decision they should make next should be decided together, warning her not to get carried away with what was essentially hearsay. After Jolene told Ricky about what she had found out, the pair decided it would be a good idea to go back to the doctor's office to find out what was going on. She was 18 weeks pregnant at this point, so the doctor could more easily figure out how the baby was developing. And, as it turned out, everything was perfectly fine. She was just told to come back when she was at 25 weeks for a new ultrasound. They all started to think that maybe Keola hadn't been reacting to anything important at all. It was at 23 weeks that Jolene began experiencing the bad back pain mentioned earlier. She even claimed it felt like she was already giving birth. Getting caught in rush hour traffic, Ricky felt he had no choice but to call an ambulance to come pick her up. As soon as they arrived, the doctor immediately performed an ultrasound to ensure the safety of the baby. And as soon as it was done, the doctor uttered a completely startling phrase, "I have to call the police." Of course, this shocked Jolene and Ricky. Why did the police need to get involved? What had the doctor seen? And why wouldn't the doctor tell them anything? The situation gradually angered the couple. They just wanted to be in the loop. It didn't take much longer until the police were on the scene. And they had some questions for Ricky. The questions started out normal enough at first. They just asked him where they lived, who they were. Basic questions to better understand them as people. But things took a strange turn when they started asking about the pregnancy. They also asked where the couple had been the few weeks. It was just a strange situation for them to be in. It was during the questioning that Ricky said something he would come to regret. He said, "Go and do your job, but leave me alone." The police didn't react positively to this and ended up taking him to the station for further questioning. Of course, Ricky didn't want to leave his pregnant wife alone, but he didn't have a choice. And Jolene wasn't feeling too good about what was going on as well. And then the doctor told her something even more frightening. The doctor said that they needed to do surgery for the good of the baby. Unfortunately, he could not yet ease Jolene's fear, for the police had instructed him not to divulge too much information at the time. Although she didn't know what the surgery was for, she still had the option to accept or refuse it. However, it didn't take her long to choose to have the surgery done for the good of the baby. While Jolene went to the operating room, Ricky had just arrived at the police station. They placed him in the interrogation room where they continued to ask more questions. Ricky only got more and more angry about the situation. He just wanted to be with his wife. The police finally did begin to explain themselves a little bit. The police brought in 5 people on the other side of the window, all of them being criminals. And Ricky was surprised to realize he recognized one. And that person was his doctor. The same doctor they had seen for previous ultrasounds and to check on the health of their baby. Ricky was so confused by what this meant, and the police began to explain the situation. As it turns out, the doctor had implanted a medical chip inside of Jolene. It was designed to regulate medications needed for pregnant women, but the device had not yet been legalized in the United States. It had been placed inside of the medications prescribed to Jolene, which were purchased under Ricky's name. With that scenario resolved, the police helped Ricky rush back to the hospital. However, he couldn't find Jolene, only her doctor. The doctor told him about the impending surgery to remove the chip and asked him to follow him. Although, Ricky still didn't know if the baby was all right. After telling Ricky what was going on, he informed him that both his wife and child were just fine. The illegal chip was likely causing Jolene's back pain and it should fade after its removal. Jolene was discharged as soon as the procedure was done. And she'd be back in about 15 more weeks when it was actually time to have the baby. At the 40-week mark, Jolene gave birth to their baby, a little girl named Julia. And the new parents certainly had an interesting story to tell their daughter once she was older. That was probably the last time they ever doubted the instincts of Keola. She turned out to be one fine horse.